Where were you on the 9th of May? Where were you on the 9th of May? In church. Oh. Yes? Golf aids. Others? I want answers, please. Where were you on the 9th of May? Home. In front of the TV. Now, see, to what extent you played the role of the Prime Minister? To what extent did you play the role of the King or the President of the country? Where were you? But that is not the only question I have for you. Where were you as a Christian? And what were you doing? Now the scriptures tell us, in talking about the armor of God, we are told, put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil. Take your stand against. Are you used to that? Sometimes when little children are naughty, we tell them, don't be naughty. You tell them, finally you come to a point where you say, now be quiet. And then they become quiet. Now that's the kind of stand that St. Paul is encouraging us to take at a time of a struggle. Aragaleya. You know, the word aragaleya is a beautiful word. Don't be afraid of it. Because the 1971 was not a real aragaleya. You see, 89 was not a real aragaleya. But this is a real aragaleya, where you see people flocking together and fighting against something without a single arm, without a single stone or pole in their hands. Those who came out of the temple trees, that's a different story. They came out with all the necessary paraphernalia for an attack. Now, when there is a struggle without arms, we need to be very, very watchful. When there is also a struggle, people coming up with arms, also we have to be very, very watchful. Why? Because, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. I underline the word high places. Where are the high places? What is the highest point in Colombo? I mean Colombo. Huh? Wesley College, do you know that? Wesley College is the highest point in Colombo. Very interesting. And the previous owners of that land had a specific reason to have that as their place of residence, because it was the highest point. So why? What's so significant of being a resident in the highest point? Well, this is something that you may never have heard, but this is true. Highest points are places where you offer sacrifices, worship, you have your dealings with spiritual powers. Now, I'm not going to elaborate on that. It's not a Methodist family who lived there. Of course, it was a Britisher who lived there, but they had a reason to be living in that place particularly, because they were people who were dealing with something that was always hanging around in higher places. You have heard of Freemasons? So take note of that. So all Wesleyites, you are proud about being in a higher place? Yes. And we have had to break the power of the evil one that has always disturbed our Wesley College. Wesleyites, please don't misunderstand me. We've had a lot of problems in that college. And we have had to fight. And that wrestling and fighting was not simply against human beings. We experienced the power of the devil, and a lot of prayer and prayer walking and wrestling has gone on in that place. I hope and pray that it is still going on in that place. As a leader of the church, I had that heavy responsibility on my shoulders of going there and praying and breaking the powers of darkness, the principalities, the powers of wickedness that was disturbing our college for many, many years. Now you get the point. Why are we asked to take a stand? Not against flesh and blood. Don't think about Mahinda and the Gota and the Rajapaksas and the Ranil and the Sajit and Anurakumar and all these people. These are human beings. You see, you can have your likes and dislikes about them. But you must learn to look beyond. Something that I learned from my son-in-law is very interesting. One day he was driving us to London, and he was very confident and speeding and, in great speed. I have never gone in that speed on a highway. So I asked him, how do you drive so confidently? There's another vehicle going in front of you. He said, no, I don't look at that only. I look at the vehicle that is before that, in front of that vehicle. If I see him doing something wrong or breaking on, then immediately I respond. We are always good at, responding and reacting to what is just before us. So we see human beings. These fellows came and did a kalabala on the 9th of May. No. You remember when Jesus was tempted? If you turn to Luke chapter 4, verse 5 onwards. From the second temptation that Jesus had. See, he was taken up to a high place, to the highest mountains. You will find the word high place or high. He was taken up, right? Taken up means not down here, but taken up to a higher place. And there he was told, you worship me, you will get all this. The whole world will get. To be on the higher places is a tremendous opportunity. To be at a higher point in life, it's a tremendous opportunity. It can be a great opportunity of service. It can be a great opportunity of, doing good to other people. But also be aware of the fact that when you are at the highest point, it is also the point where the devil will do his jugglery to get you into his pockets. So it's not when Jesus was hungry that, telling him to turn the stones into bread. But he took him up to the hills and then he said, now you do what I tell you. Again, you will find he was taken to the highest point of the temple in Jerusalem, the highest point. You see, not at the temple door, not simply at the temple mount, but he was taken up to the highest point of the temple. And there he was told, you jump from here and you will see how God will send his angels to save you. But Jesus did not do that, because he realized at this higher point there is the work of darkness. There is the work of the wicked one. There is the work of principalities and powers. Now, my friends, what do we need to understand? Well, you have to understand that this struggle is not a struggle between flesh and flesh, blood and blood. We are all struggling. Whether you are at golfers or not, we are all struggling. And this struggle is not a human battle alone. There is a human battle, but it is something more and beyond that. And you need to discern it. Now, on the 9th of May, I had an appointment at the Human Rights Commission to make a complaint together with 2 other Buddhist monks. I went there. Then we came out, having lodged our complaint, and then I went and dropped the 2 of them to their 2 temples, one at Narayanpita, the other one is in Ketharama. And then I thought, okay, I'll just take a ride through the Gota Gogama. So I came, everything was peaceful. Then I passed Maina Gogama, and the same, very peaceful. They were having their innocent demonstrations and shouting and all that. But when I reached home on the Marine Drive from Kolpiti to Dehiwala, it takes me only 12 minutes. When I reached home, my wife is saying, come, see what's happening. I said, what's happening? She said, see, they are attacking the Maina Gogama. I said, can't be. I just passed that place now. Oh, now I see from Maina Gama to Gota Gogama. Then it struck me, it's strange. I didn't see anything. I didn't see any unruly people coming onto the road from temple trees. I knew that they were there, but I didn't know what was happening. So immediately I turned back and went to Kolpiti Junction. That has been a little bit of my territory, when I was there. So when I went, I discovered that some of the people from Gota Gogama who had been chased out were there. Then there were the Watte Kollas, there's a big settlement on this side of the temple trees. All the nefarious activities take place there. Those youth were there. And then the police was also there with an ASP. And they were about to have a real face-to-face fight. These youth were scolding them in utter filth, and the police were now standing like this. Come for a fight? Okay. And I could also see some more army behind them, a little bit away. Now, I just couldn't believe. And immediately, the manager of the hotel right in front of our Methodist college, Wonder Hotel, saw me, he knew me, and he came to me and said, can you please intervene? I said, how can I intervene? But he said, no, please, you come and talk to these people and talk to those police forces. They are going to clash now, and there will be bloodshed here in this place. So I just said a prayer in my heart, Lord, I have nothing in my hand, but go with me. And so I went, and the boys were shouting, and they were very angry, and some were even drunk, from that water. That's the usual thing. But there were the genuine Gota Gogama people also who had got hammered, who were there, they were all angry. Now how can I take control of this anger? I just said a prayer, Lord, help me to silence these children. And all what I did was අරගලයේ සියලු දෙනා පොඩ්ඩක් ඇහුම්කම් දෙන්න. Now who am I to shout like that? What a fool I would look. And mind you, they silenced. They listened. And tell me, what is your problem? So they told me. They had all the rights to say what happened, and they were very angry that the police allowed the hooligans to come from Temple Trees and come across St. Michael's Road and jump over the barricades which were permanently fixed and then go and attack. And the people had appealed to the police saying, don't let them go. Don't let them go. But they just, kept quiet, didn't do anything, allowed them to go. That's it. And so, now is their turn to take revenge from the police. So managed to get them to remain quiet. And I said, I'll talk to the police and I'll ask them why they didn't do anything. And then I went and met the ASP who was in charge of the police, about 100 cops there. I was wondering whether I will be acceptable or not. I mean, that's not the right time to go and talk to them. But lo and behold, the ASP was willing to listen to me. And I said, look here, they are blaming you. I was not here, but they are blaming you because you didn't do what you are called to do. He was silent and he said, Father to පුළුවන් නම් මේගොල්ලන්ව නිශ්චල කරලා දෙන්න මං කියන්නම් මොකද වුනේ. So I said, okay. And he said, there were orders for us to just look the other side, not do anything. So Father එහෙම කිව්වම ඉතින් කොහොමද මම මුකුත් කරන්නේ? And අපි සිය දෙකට බෑ මේ ආපු දහස් ගණන් මිනිස්සුන්ව පාලනය කරන්න. So අපි පැත්තකට වුණා. So then I got those boys to come near and we discussed what really happened. There were still a few young people who were very young. නෑ ඒකනේ මුන් තමයි මේ අපිට ගහන්න ඉඩ දුන්නේ and all that. Okay, so let them come out with that anger. But you are standing there. You are standing there in the name of God. And you are standing there because you see that this is not just a human struggle, but in the high places there was warfare going on. I am not saying this to boast, but I really see with my own eyes the hand of God that reconciled it. And the ASP said, Father, මේගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න මේ barriers ඕනනම් අයින් කරන්න කියලා. අපි මුකුත් කරන්නේ නැහැ. Let them remove the barriers. We will not do anything. So when these boys got it, my gosh, that was a big victory for them. So the shouting, you can see that St. Michael's Church board is also down. They removed everything, broke everything. Well, you have to let them get out with their feelings. No other harm. And then they went and put the barriers across the Gold Road. So then I asked ASP, now what are you going to do? He said, අපි මෙතන බලන් ඉන්නම්. ඒගොල්ලන්ට barriers handle කරන්න ගියා. I couldn't believe. So I asked, ඕගොල්ලෝ මුකුත් කරන්නේ නැද්ද? ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඕන දැන් මෙතන යාන වාහන ඔක්කොම check කරන්න. They want to check all the vehicles. They said, no, we don't want to have a clash with them. We will watch. If you are also here, I believe they will not do anything wrong. How wonderful is that? Because I can see a little further from there, in front of the Temple Trees gate, there was a lot of commotion. And then behind the Temple Trees, burning of buses and putting people into the Perera Lake, all that was going on. But thank God, till 7 o'clock, I was there with them. And they quietened down and they remained calm. Not a single drop of blood was shed there. There were very critical moments. Ambulances were coming and they were going and hammering on the ambulances, but managed to get them aside. Of course, they wanted to check whether Johnny was inside one of those ambulances. That's what they told me. Johnny and Abulwa. So I said, okay, we'll check. But don't delay the ambulance. And they were very kind. And they did not damage the ambulances. About 15 ambulances went. Everything was checked. Can't help it. We can't stop that. They should have that at least, but without delay sending. Now, why am I relating this? You know, my friends, I also felt helpless when I saw the TV and the Maina Gogama and the Gota Gogama all flattened. How many of you prayed? How many of you prayed taking the stand against whom? Not those hooligans, but against the evil one that had unleashed. You know, this is what we are asked to do. We have to be wide awake, we have to be very watchful, we have to wear the armor of God. I'm not going to talk about any of that. But one thing is very clear. We all have to take a stand. Nothing else but take a stand, realizing that this is not a battle between flesh and blood, but a battle with powers of darkness. If you address it in the rightful manner, remember, there is always a victory. Why? Because there are no deals with the devil. No deals. Now there is a no deal governor. Right. Very good. No dealings. You see, you can't negotiate with the devil. With the devil, you have to take the stand. With people, yes, you negotiate. And when you negotiate with people, keep in mind that you are having no deals and negotiations with the higher powers of darkness. And thank God, we have been given the strength, the call, the opportunity to take our stand. In ending, I'm going to show you something. Let's see whether you will get anything out of this. You know, these are in the months of April, May, June, July to August in different years. Now, I have started with 2019, April 19th, Easter bombing, followed with violence. Right? And then you get on to the month of May. Look at the month of May in different years. President Premadasa was assassinated on the 1st of May. Right? Mahinda resigns with the unleashing of violence. He didn't simply go, he unleashed violence and went. Then the death of Prabhakaran on the 18th of May, 22nd of May, communal riots in 1958. Check the dates if you were born at that time. It happened in July. And then again, it happened in May. And then again, you will find communal riots in May 1958. I was only 5 months old baby when it happened. And then something very interesting. On the 22nd of May 1972, there is the Republican Constitution. Okay? Same date, there were communal riots in 1956 and 58. But then there is a Republican Constitution, but that republic is changed to a National Heroes Day by our good friend J.R. Jayawardena, the royalist. Royalists are good at making good changes in a very subtle way. Now, then of course they play within the rules, they say, right? 1978 May, that is what happened. And then in 1915 May, Sinhala Muslim riots have taken place. Sinhala Muslim riots have taken place. And then in 1981 May, burning of the Jaffna Library, which is a very shameful act, which really hurt not just the Tamil people, but the people in Asia, because that was the greatest library in Asia. How sad. And the man who did it also got the return. Sad but true. He's not in the land of the living. He orchestrated it. And then you come over to the month of June, 14 June, Aludgama Muslim riots, Muslim Sinhala riots in 2014. And then in 1956, July 7th, Sinhala only act was passed. Much of all this violence and killings and hard-burn issues came up in July 7th with the Sinhala only act. Then in 1977, from July to August, the post-election violence after JR had his greatest victory, there was violence against the opposition party, SLFP, and then of course it spread into communal violence. That's sad. And then in 1983, the Black July, it didn't happen only 2-3 days, but the effect of it was just spreading and spreading till August. So much so that we could not have the Methodist conference that particular year in August. It had to take place somewhere in November. And then you will also find in 1987, July, the Indo-Lanka Pact was signed, and you remember the violence that came out? Okay, now you might say, well, these are coincidences. Don't look at them as coincidence, because you will say there are other days also where it has happened. But can you see a track record of violence being unleashed? By whom? Not by flesh and blood, but by the principalities and powers of darkness in high places. Now, my friends, okay, you can switch it off. What do we do? What do we do? Well, St. Peter reminds us of something very important. If we don't recognize them, we are in danger. We are in danger. Now, how do we avoid recognizing this? The first is blame game. Blame game. Right? Okay, now see, even today they are blaming each other. When the bride was on the porua, the man who said, I can't get married, suddenly sends a letter saying, I am willing to marry. Surely you can't do that, no? Right? That's very bad. So everything, is really not moving right. And then begins the blame game. That is what we have heard in our parliaments again and again for the last so many years. That's why those children were there around the parliament wanting something done. Now, pray high, pray high. Pray attacking the forces of evil which are not allowing our political leaders to do what is right, but look for ways in which they can blame the other and get away. How sad. Okay, people will have their different reactions to our new Prime Minister. I don't hold a brief for him. He has to answer for what is being asked. But at least he is the only man who has come forward saying, I have an answer, let me do it. His past track record may not be perfect, but he is the only man who has come and said, and already within 2 days he has shown us that there are countries that are willing to support. We are able to get the money. I don't know whether there are deals or not, but you and I have a responsibility to pray at the higher levels with no deals, that something will be worked out. Otherwise, by the end of next week or this week, starting from today, we'll come to a standstill and nothing will move. And then everybody again will start blaming. So don't get into these blame games, please. That really defeats you from really taking your stand against the high places. Don't trust the politicians, I'll tell you that. Don't trust a single person of them. Now, I posted something in my FB 2-3 days ago, and I've been having some different reactions. That's good, that's what I wanted, because that photograph carries where I am laying my hand on Mahinda Rajapaksa and praying over him. Not on the 9th of May, but way back in 2018. But I wanted to just post it and see how will the people react. I went with my good friend late Anand Jayasinghe, because the three of us are Richmondites and we went to Richmond College Matter. So anyway, I offered to pray for him and bless him. And when I came back and told certain people, they said, why did you put your hand on that man of evil? Why not? You don't connive. You don't go to, make pacts and deals with him. But you have an authority in the name of Jesus to rebuke the evil one. I didn't lay my hand on him and say, now I rebuke all the powers of evil in you, Mahinda. He won't tolerate that. But in my heart, that is the prayer that went. And I believe God's power, not my power. My hand had no magic. I can't produce mobile phones or give you credit to your mobile phones. Nothing of that sort. But the power of God in high places. Power of God has to be unleashed, sent out. You and I are the people to do that. So my friends, very important, don't leave everything in the hands of the politicians. They have messed it up for us. Okay, still there's something that they have to do in order to put back everything right. But we are the people who have to get that struggle going on. Not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and the powers of darkness. And finally, our fight is not merely against human beings, but against the devil, who was defeated by Christ. Don't forget that. My gosh, he has gone to Tirupati and he goes this place, that place, and everywhere. And Jnanakka is also now inside it. No, I don't want to, do anything about this. Let Jnanakka be there or let her vanish. Let Tirupati be there or not. But the Tirupati main priest got whacked with the COVID-19. But our God remains to be God Almighty. And so you stand in His name and become very offensive and defensive. Both must go. The armor that God has given us are both for offensive and defensive attacks. And that has to be there. So, in ending, let me repeat what Peter says in 1 Peter 5:8-9. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith. Not just say, hey, what are you doing? No. Hey, you go in the name of Jesus. They will go. Believe in that. And so, on this Sunday, after we have seen very heartbreaking moments in our nation, let's not forget, we are battling in this land with places that are high where principalities and powers of darkness and wickedness is in operation. But they are not the highest. Amen? They are not the highest. The highest is God. That's why we sang our first hymn saying, praise to the Lord Almighty. Lord Almighty. So, may God strengthen us. May we see that battle becoming a success, where the victory is on the side of God. And we will sing our hymn.